Hey everyone, I'm Melanie from Streamline Legal, where we help law firms get the most out of their practice management software. Tonight, I'm talking about policies and procedures. And here at Streamline Legal, we are big on documenting procedures. And I get a question a lot from people about what software or technology I recommend for housing or storing your policies and procedures. And some of you may have heard of products like Process Street or Tetra or Trainual, or there's about 100 others that you can use for this very purpose. And they all have some really great features and some really great, they're really great resources. But I want to stress something to you guys today because I do think it's important to document your procedures. I think there's a lot of benefit from it. Number one, it makes the procedures that much more clear. We can hold people accountable now that we've got a clear documented procedure on something. It helps when we're training people. It helps us balance our capacity if we need to know what work needs to be done. Now we've got a very clear idea of what we need to hire for or what position we're hiring for, what their job duties are going to be. And when we flush out our procedures, it really helps us become more streamlined or more efficient because now we're taking a look at them in a lot of detail and trying to figure out how we're doing things. And so there's tons of benefits to documenting your policies and procedures. But what happens a lot of times is that we get distracted, right? We get distracted by the shiny new object and we get distracted by the awesome new software, and we start making plans for that before we even have any procedures or any systems documented. So my A1 thing that I want to make sure that I'm conveying to you guys tonight is to make sure that you are focusing on the processes and the procedures themselves. If you are looking at a software and you are getting excited about a software, but you haven't even written down or documented one procedure yet, then I would suggest to you that you may be the victim of the shiny object syndrome, and that it is far more important to actually think through and document the procedures than it is where you're keeping them. So if you're looking at some product that has a learning curve or is an added expense, I would encourage you to first look at what procedures do you have to store in there. Have you documented anything yet? And if you haven't, start there. Because there are some key things that I think we need to keep in mind when we're thinking about storing our policies and procedures. Number one is we want to make it accessible for everyone. We want to make sure everyone knows where they are. And as a result, we need to make sure we're storing them consistently as number two. So make sure that they're always kept in the same place and everyone can find them. And then the last one is make sure that these policies and procedures and these processes are editable. We want to make sure that we can go back and change them. As often as our law firm changes and as often as our circumstances change, we may need to change these procedures. So let's make sure they're easy to edit. So there are a lot of low cost or no cost options that we can use for this while we're developing our procedures at the beginning. Now again, once we get some under our belt and we feel like these are getting large and out of control, then another software may be appropriate. But at the beginning, when we're first developing these procedures, I think that the fact that we're thinking them through and documenting them is far more important than the software we're using to do it. So just a couple of low cost, no cost options that you can think of when you're first starting out and documenting your procedures. Number one is a Word document. We can take a Word document, we can create a table of contents, we can start writing. And I highly recommend, if you're used to or happy drafting on a computer, start with a Word document. If you like writing by hand, start writing it by hand. Anything that's going to help you to actually start the process instead of wasting time by researching products that we're not ready for, frankly. So number one is a Word document. Number two, Dropbox. Whatever system you're using to store your folders, whether it's Dropbox or box.net or if it's Google Docs, whatever it is, we can store documents in there. Maybe we have maybe we have them divided by folders, right? So we have one folder that says policies and procedures. We have subfolders for each section of our firm, and so on and so forth, where we can house those Word documents or those Google documents or whatever we're drafting on. So Dropbox can be a very easy solution. And then also I've seen people do it in Trello, where they have a Trello board and each column is a different part of their law firm, and then each card in each column is a policy or procedure that's drafted underneath that. So that's another organizational tool that you can use. Again, don't go out and buy a software until you've actually spent some time documenting some of your procedures, because you may not even know what's going to be most helpful for you. So please do spend a little time, start that drafting, wait till you have a few procedures and policies under your belt, and then go out and investigate what tool might work better for your firm once you feel like you're outgrowing the low cost or no cost options. I hope that's helpful for you guys, and I hope that you do take some time, because it really is beneficial to start documenting those procedures. Have a great evening, and thanks for joining me.